Hello. This video is a remake, actually. I made a video about the Bristol riots and then I uploaded it to BitChute, and bless your heart, you people on BitChute, you caught straight away that I had misunderstood something the person I'm going to be talking about here had said. And so I thought I'll just redo the whole thing rather than just going with it and toughing it out, because I'm that sort of person. Okay, so it was about the Bristol riots, and it was what I was discussing was the fact that they were protesting against the police crime sentencing and courts bill, which I have already criticised in a previous video. It's a very thick chunk of legislation. I believe it's 300 pages long, and it has some good points and some what you might call streamlining of complicated laws and all the rest of it. But inserted into all this, the 300 pages of bump, there are several pieces of legislation which are actually quite frightening. I've been through it in my previous video, so I'm not going to go into that now. But what happened was there have been several demonstrations about this bill all over the United Kingdom. There was one in Leeds, and that was perfectly peaceful the whole time. This one in Bristol turned very nasty. I suspect that was some sort of American influence. They were trying to turn it into some sort of an American type riot, a la George Floyd or something along those lines. I know that Bristol has a very active political student organisation, and I also know that it has been doing things which are not that nice. And I'm not talking about this particular demonstration. I've seen other things as well. Now, I don't know whether I can say they were getting at the wrong target, or they were just trying to emulate this American thing. Because in America, there is definitely some sort of grievance, cooked up or not, against the police. And so we see this here, which picture in the Guardian, which shows a slogan on the wall, which is, directed against the police. But the fact is, it's not the police who are getting this bill. Of course, the police will definitely enforce it with a lot of glee. They will enforce it as badly, as heavy-handedly, and as overbearingly as they have enforced the restrictions we've had over the past year. The police are not good custodians of light-handed policing. I don't think they ever were. We like to think they were, but I don't think they ever were. But they definitely have acted badly in the past year. And I have been following the Alex Belfield business as well. And I know that he's telling the truth, not because I know him personally, but because I have seen two previous cases of the Midlands police being in exactly the same way bullies. And I've seen it. One of the people on the end of this bullying actually contacted me. I couldn't do much to help except offer some moral support, but the fact is I've seen it unfolding, so I can believe that. But yeah, back to Parliament. You see, they will make this legislation, the police will enforce it, and they'll enforce it badly. And as I said in my previous video, most of the rules, most of the laws which this bill, the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Bill, most of the laws are already on the books. And that's why I think that they're trying to, that it's not that bill that's actually the issue. The issue is the little bits that they've stuck in between that they're hoping their members of parliament will be too tired to notice by that time. I don't know how many of you are aware of the British comedy show Yes Minister, Yes Prime Minister, but Sir Humphrey Appleby was talking about the way he could get stuff past the minister by putting a load of papers in the box they're supposed to read and just slipping in something that they just won't notice. And it seems to me that that's what this bill is all about. So I understand the wish of people to do something about it, but setting fire to police cars is not the way to deal with it. Nobody is going to support them when they're doing this. And this kid is one of the useful idiots who are supporting the rioters. The rioters have another plan. It's not the bill, they're just taking advantage of it. But this kid here is helping them along. And you can tell that in the ill-constructed way he's thinking. So here he is, and right.
My name is Charlie.
Well, yeah, all right. Thank you for introducing yourself. You say you're called Charlie. I don't know whether you're called Charlie or not. If Charlie is a nom de guerre, well, maybe it's a nom de guerre. But my suspicion is that it really is something along those lines. It's not Charlie, though. It's Charles. Because that's what your parents christened you. You're not Charlie. Charlie's your, Mako name, although I don't think it's very Mako to be called Charlie. But definitely he is a Charles. And every Friday, his mummy rings him up at the university to ask if he's got enough, if he's eating well enough, or how he's managing with his laundry. And she will refer to him as Charles, won't she? Now,
I've had many of friends to these protests last week, 10 days, and many of them have been brutally...
Right. So he's saying his friends have been on this march or in these protests a week to 10 days, and many of them have been brutally...
fucking...
No, he could manage a swear word, but he couldn't manage anything else. Now, as far as I know, there are no students in hospital. There may be. I haven't read about that, though. I have read about policemen in hospital, though. So it looks like the students have been giving as good as they get. And this chap here, he used the word brutal, but then he didn't say what happened afterwards. He lost the flow, because I don't think he could actually say that much. He does get into something later on.
Just really bad, really bad.
Right. Now, I did make a reference to Alex Belfield before. If you want to know, Charlie, what being treated brutally is, then you should see what he said about getting arrested. Now, that was brutal. And they knocked his door down. Now, let's see what else Charlie has to say.
Just really bad, really bad.
All right, so it's really bad, really bad. That's as much as he can get out. Because I think that I'm quite sure the police were not being particularly gentle. But I considering that he and his mates were setting fire to police cars and I believe throwing rocks, then maybe the police had a certain rationale for the way they were acting. I'm no big supporter of the police, by the way. I've seen too much of them overstepping the mark to be that sympathetic. But I'm not that sympathetic to this guy either. You know that one about the old joke about mixed feelings, you know, seeing your mother-in-law driving off a cliff in your new car. Okay, let's carry on.
Like they've had violence against the police, coming up to them with shields against a line of peaceful protesters, and they've bashed against them.
Okay, so what the police did was they got their shields and they pushed into the crowd. He wasn't talking about truncheons, guns, mace, tasers, anything like that, was he? He was talking about the police actually shoving people. They may have actually wielded their shields or just pushed them ahead. My guess is that they were pushing them ahead, because if you wield it, you're exposing your body, aren't you? All right, next.
And my name is Charlie.
Well, thank you, Charlie. I had almost forgotten. Ah, yeah, I want you to pay particular attention to this, because at this point he takes upon himself the troubles of the world.
I represent all of Bristol,
He represents all of Bristol. Look, he's there in a crowd of students. You can hear music behind him. If this is a revolution, then they're partying rather hard to the revolution. He's all whipped up and excited, but just look at the people around him. He's LARPing. That's what he's doing.
I represent all of Bristol, young people, students, adults.
Okay, so he represents all of Bristol. So this kid here, I didn't vote for him. Mind you, I don't live in Bristol. I'm quite sure a lot of people in Bristol didn't vote for him. He represents them, nevertheless. Young people, well, all of Bristol, yes, and young people, students, and adults. That's very telling in itself, isn't it? Young people and students might be two separate categories. After all, a young person doesn't have to be a student. But adults, he knows he's not an adult. Here he is, a revolutionary, speaking out against the brutal police, and he's saying he's not an adult. He's LARPing.
They have all been, victim of these kind of crimes from the police.
So people are victims. Whenever I hear the word victim, I start to get a bit suspicious, because the word victim, racist, survivor, they're just being used, overused and abused by people like him. Now, from the way he talks, he's been to a good school, but he hasn't benefited from a good education, because he doesn't seem to be able to formulate thoughts, analyse his position, and come up with a cogent argument. The police are brutal. Yeah, well, you're going to stand there setting fire to their cars. They're going to react.
It's really bad.
And now the coup de grace.
Like, witness Ella, a friend of mine, and
that girl there is as drunk as a skunk. He might have been on something as well, but at the moment it looks like he's on the soft drinks. But she is not quite so circumspect.
Witness the kind of crowds.
Now, can you see that bottle of wine in her left hand? I'm sure she's drinking that. He has this can of what looks like a popular soft drink to me, but not her. This is a party. When I was a student, that would have been a great party.
The crowd that has attracted.
Right, well, this is the voice of the revolution, apparently. I do agree that the police crime sentencing and courts bill certainly needs people to criticise it and to stop it from being pushed through. There are some very good ideas in there as well, but a lot of them are of the same sort of dangerous looseness, and they allow far too much police discretion to be fair. And the problem is that the police are not notable for exercising discretion in any way. However, if we want to get anybody to agree that that bill is wrong, setting fire to police cars like this, and coming up with,
fucking
just emotional responses, no reasonable arguments, and with your arm draped round a drunk girl. This is not the way to get people onto your side, or even to think that you have a case at all. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Riots design or Grambo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.grannyopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.